actually wearing my Java and Jesus hat this morning.
How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
I couldn't remember. I don't know where my other hats are. That's why I'm wearing this one. They may be in my truck. Well, good morning. Kim is on this morning, so we know she is. Someone else is. We don't know who they are. Some people I don't think have a Facebook account, and so like I don't know if they can comment or not. I don't know how that works. I haven't messed with it much.
Can't you comment off of YouTube?
You can if you're on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're on, say hello. Good morning. Good Friday morning. Pretty day. Although, is it supposed to be windy today again?
I don't know, but it was a little cool this morning.
36.
Yeah.
I mean, that surprised me. What shocked me even more is when I glanced from the other side of the kitchen where our little weather station thing is. I saw 26, and I'm like, man, it got colder than I thought. Well, today's April the 26th.
Oh.
So the 26 was the date, the 36 was the temperature. But I was going, brr, that's a little chilly for late April. 39, it's warmed up, so
You're right.
Looks to be a nice day. It does say windy today. I don't know if we still have that advisory. I don't see it. It's supposed to be windy today and tomorrow, it says. High tomorrow is only 46 with a low of 29. The winter that just won't let go. And then later on next week, it changed. I did see 70 at one point, but now 68 is the highest I see.
Okay, well, that's close enough.
I like winter. I like spring. I don't like wind. I don't know anybody that says, yeah, I love the howling wind and watching the trees do this, leaning toward the power lines as they've been.
Blowing dust.
Yeah, golly, I mentioned to you that yesterday we went down late afternoon to Alamogordo and the air was just thick, and I'm like, wonder if this is sand or is it pollen? Because I woke up this morning kind of congested, so who knows? We might skip summer this year, or I don't know. We might have summer in the fall. I don't know how that.
I flew into El Paso.
But was it like this when you were coming in?
Yeah, turbulence was horrible. But all of El Paso was just an absolute dust bowl. You couldn't see anything.
Yeah. I can. Yeah. I've not had any plane delays in El Paso from wind. We did have an odd thing that happened one time. We were flying out, and the weather was fine here. We get down in Alamogordo, and it was cooler in Alamogordo than here. This is weird. And this is obviously, it had been winter. I don't remember exactly even where we were going, probably to VBS training or something. And we're driving, and past the border checkpoint, there was this wall of fog or cloud. It reminded me of Stephen King's The Mist, if you've read or seen that one. I mean, just this rolling wall. And we got into that, and the temperature dropped down into the 20s.
Wow.
And we almost could not keep the windshield hot enough so that it didn't freeze on the windshield.
Wow.
The fog. When we got there, we had an
that's amazing.
Ice-coated car, a popsicle, and we got delayed most of that day. We got there, thankfully, in time for the conference that night. But that was crazy, huh? Yeah. So, thankfully, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen now. But if I'm kind of ready for some spring.
Yeah, me too.
So we were talking, if I can remember, maybe Jim will hop on and remind us. We were talking Wednesday about, it was fun visiting with Narcys and Jen, and you guys hadn't met them. So it was fun for us to catch up and just a little chuckle. Narcys. We don't think about this, that missionaries are also called from other countries. So Narcys is from Nicaragua. And when he felt, he worked with Young Life there, so that didn't feel like being a missionary for him. For her, it was, because she's from North Carolina. But when they felt like God was calling them to be missionaries somewhere, and with Young Life, Vida Joven is for Nicaragua. He was thinking, like we think, oh, God's calling me to be a missionary. I'm going to go to Africa, And then the guy whoever he was talking with Young Life said, well, actually, we'd like for you to be a missionary in the United States. And so he like, what? That's where the missionaries come from. So they're Vida Hoven or Young Life now because they're in the States. Young Life missionaries with Young Life in the States, the United States, and what they had to do there is exactly what we need to do here, and that is, they get to just outside of Boulder, I think is where they are. They get to that community and have to say who's here, what are they like, and what's it going to take to reach them. And oddly enough, he's well, they both are, I guess, but they're ministering to people from Central and Latin America, from South America. So
in Boulder,
yeah, around Boulder, and they call them newcomers, and that's not. I mean, that's happening everywhere in the U.S. If you don't know, the world is coming to us, and Latin American world primarily, but we have El Salvadorians in Alamogordo.
Really?
Immigrants. They came in legally, and they're here. They can't. The paper is still being processed, so they can't legally work yet, which is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
To bring somebody into your country
and then not allow
and say everything's all kosher, you're here legal, but you can't work yet. And so, but I appreciate. I've just seen the ladies, young ladies out there. And you'll recognize them because they look kind of Hispanic, but a little bit darker than Mexican. And they're selling bottles of water at Walmart. So that's what the girls that you see doing that, and they don't do it on the corners where the people beg for food. They're selling bottles of water. They're doing the best they can to make it. But so they have that there too. And I don't know kind of what state of the process that people are in there, but they're figuring out who they are, what are they like, what is it going to take to reach them, and they call them newcomers there because they said, like, I could see we're probably guilty of this too. We just assume everybody's here illegally, maybe, and kind of push back some. Let me get that up there. Jose, good morning.
Jose. Right.
Oh, I didn't do the big print. So let's do the big print.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
So they feel, I'm sure they feel not wanted, the people that they're ministering to, and probably people in our area too. But they want to make them feel, and this is, I'm stealing this from Text in Church. Text in Church says, known, noticed, loved. I'm going to steal that, but change it a little bit for our welcome team. Noticed, known, and loved. But that's really that's not the way Narcys and Jen phrased theirs, but that's what they want them to feel. They want them to know, hey, we see you, we notice you, and we want to know you, and we love you. So noticed, known, and loved. Isn't that what we want to be? I mean, so they're doing that. That's what we were talking about. And I think, if I remember right, what we said we were going to do here is to talk about how do we keep from getting disconnected from our communities? Because it happens. That's so easy to happen in churches. I feel like I kind of got blindsided here when I realized, oh my goodness, that was happening to me. And I'm in the community all the time. I mean, most of my life is spent somehow or another on Burrow Street here, between church and coffee.
What, one block?
Okay. Allsup's and the bank and the post office, and occasionally I make it all the way down to Dusty's for breakfast. I meet a guy there that's every week. So as much as I'm in town now, I have backed off from some of the other things that I was doing, like clock, and that's a time thing. A chamber, that's a time thing. I feel like I need to, at this season in the life of our church, to and really be busy about the stuff that we're going to be doing this year. But so I realized that kind of made me feel disconnected. But let me ask you guys. Oh, different generations wear hats different. Oh,
are you wearing your hat like a millennial?
I don't think I am.
Okay.
So it's funny. So you guys can, I don't know if you can see, I smacked my head last week. And I was teasing that we had our closing kids program Wednesday, and there was a guy there who has the same hairdo I do.
Ah.
And so I went over and I said, good to see another proud member of the good men's, or the men's good hair club, or whatever I called it. And I said, as short as I am, you'd think that I would never bump my head on anything, but I think I figured out why. I'm not used to having a duck. Tall people have to duck all the time. So anyhow, we're talking, and why that is. He said, well, I think why that is guys like you and me wear hats all the time, and we can't see up here to bump our head. He said, if you turn it to the side, and I said, yeah, this works well for me. First of all, I feel like the light is so bright that I can't see anyhow. That's the point of the visor, I always thought. So the different generations wear hats different. So that would be interesting to kind of see a little study on that.
Right.
If the bill is going to get in the way, I just have to take my hat
Or maybe
off.
that's how you can reach the other generations. Start wearing your hat differently.
Here, so we have to dig into a little bit more with Gen Z and Generation Alpha, but this is what I've decided a long time ago. Working with students, teenagers, it's better if I don't try to be like them, because it doesn't work. Now they get a kick if I try to use some of the lingo that they're using. They think that's funny. I don't know if you know the Fortnite. I never played Fortnite, but apparently they do dances in Fortnite that the kids like to mimic.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, well, just take my word. Fortnite is a game. It's a little animated game, and when they kill somebody or something, I don't know, whatever, when they accomplish something, the characters will do dances. Well, the kids begin to mimic those. Flossing is one, and I don't know how to floss, but they sure like it when I try. Now they laugh at me. You have to be willing to be laughed at. So I'm thinking it'd be better if I didn't try to wear my hat like them.
Okay.
I think if I just be me and be real, that's the best way for me to be me. But I also need to know how to connect with them.
Sure.
I don't think I have to play Fortnite to connect with them.
I don't recommend flossing.
I do, not that way, not the dancing flossing, right? Yeah. So, Jose, Kim, you guys jump in. Tell us what are some ways that we can keep from disconnecting from our community, or if you don't look at it in a positive way, what are some ways that we can stay connected with what's happening and going on with our community individually and as a church? What are some good ways to do that? You guys let us know. How do we not be that church that stayed the same and the community changed around them, and then by the time they realized it
was too late?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So you guys let me know. I have some ideas because we're kind of talking about some stuff a little bit earlier, but you guys let me know.
We'll let them chime in.
I looked up and thought that just popped up. Good morning, Tony. Tony knows. Tony, what are some good ways for us to stay connected in our community so that we don't become disconnected? How do we know what's happening and going on with our community and stay connected? Tony's doing one of those right now, actually.
Is he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tony from the Bronx. That one, Tony. He's doing one right now.
Right.
I know. Yeah.
Oh.
That Tony's
interested to hear about this.
Tony's not young, but he's pretty hip and cool.
Oh, we knew that.
In the Bronx kind of way. Poor Tony. I pick on him so much. Be nosy. Target a group for church to grow and still be relevant. Oh, target group. So I think what I hear Jose saying is that we need to say we're going to press into this particular group. And that doesn't have to be an age group. So it doesn't have to be a demographic or generation kind of group. It could be a group in a particular age life stage, if you want to put those two together. Tony says to be nosy, ask around, but there's a way that there's something you have to do to be able to do that, Tony. So So you think about that and tell us that. Be open to new perspectives and needs. Change is hard. Yeah. Yeah. So we have to be open to change some to do that. So yeah, that one's hard. We were talking about that before we started. There's going to be a day when those who are leading, even in the church, aren't us, and they're going to do things differently.
Yes, they will.
And we may have difficulty with it. No, we're pretty hip and cool. Actually, I wasn't hip and cool when hip and cool was hip and cool. So I wasn't hip and cool when I was young. So I forget now.
Hip and cool in a retro way.
Yeah. Yeah. Only if it comes back. Yeah. Changes. Yeah. Change. They can be. And they're even that way for me. And I don't think people believe how hard it is. Even if I make the change in order of service, the way we do things in church, it's hard for me. And I'll forget stuff. You know, I'll just skip over something. Used to be when we would take announcements before service, I would forget to make the announcement, and then someone would say, "Well, you just didn't really want to." No, because let me tell you what happens. Some of those come from my wife, and I forget those too. And trust me, I don't want to forget those. You know. Yeah. So, not change our beliefs, but yeah, change the way that we do stuff. Yeah. The methods are, and actually, so it's funny. I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday who's a pastor in a church, and we were talking. Most of the changes that people have difficulty with, now some of them try to make them theological. They try to make it, they'll fluff it up a bit. Whether it's music, well, that's a higher form of music. That music is more rich in theology than this one, so they try to make it theological. Another one is as simple as, because I'm reading a book called "Who Moved My Pulpit" by Tom Rainer, and in that one, the big blow up in the church was because he changed the pulpit. He changed it from the big wooden one that we're kind of used to a smaller, more discreet one to match the style of preaching that he was doing. Changed to over the years. So some people try to make that theological or doctrinal. Well, that's just a sign that God's word is no longer prominent in the church. I know, because there was a day, it started in the 1600s, went into the 1900s, which is when our denomination was born, the Southern Baptist Convention, that for those generations, that was the symbol, and it was front and center. The Catholics and other offshoots from Catholics would have it up over to the side. I don't know if you remember that. The crucifix was central.
Okay.
But the pulpit was prominent, and it was front and center in the church. So
there we go.
I think Jose has hit on something that we're really going to have to press into this year.
That's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. So I see two things that we can do. Of course, now we know, obviously, if we want to stay connected in our community, we need to be in our community. So Tony didn't chime in, but Tony actually he's on the Chamber of Commerce for the village.
Oh, did not
know that. So now we have a way of knowing what's happening in the chamber, because since I got off, I didn't really have any way to know. So we know. So Tony's our connection there. So we know that part of it, if we're going to stay connected in our community, we have to be in the community, right? So we have to be involved in community things, right? Well, we were talking earlier. You said your strategy is to stay as disconnected as you can. I fleshed that out a little bit from what you said. That's not exactly your words. Yeah. So Paul's like, wait, what's do you know the latest hubbub in town right now?
No.
She says you do.
I do.
Yeah. The ski area.
What about it?
Okay, you don't know.
No.
Yeah. So he stays disconnected. So the latest hubbub in town right now, apparently there's something going on about maybe not renewing the lease for the ski area with the Adams, who've had it for a long time. That's like a big thing in town right now.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So if you went to village council meetings, you would apparently, or if you looked on Facebook occasionally, I don't know.
Occasionally.
Yeah. So the one,
All right.
the one way obviously is to be involved in the community, and that makes sense. But we have trouble with that. I backed away from Clock and from Chamber of Commerce because of a time thing. I need to spend, especially this year, a lot of time focusing here. So you and I may not be able to connect those ways in the community. Parent teacher organization in schools. Yes. Are you going to be on that?
Not directly, but there's actually another community outreach group that the school has put together. And
okay.
I'm on that.
Oh, you're on that one. Oh, good. Yeah. So you're connected. I'm not going to be on the parent teacher organization because I don't have a kid in school. I would, and even if they would let me on, I would say, well, that you don't even have a kid in school. What do you care? If I were them. Tony said that the lease was renewed, so apparently that meeting was
okay.
There was a called meeting for that, so that's good. But that was so Jose hit that. There are some things that you and I can't, or we want to be honest, we don't really. It's not our interest. We don't want to be involved in. But what we need to do is have our church needs to reflect our community. So we're talking about demographics earlier. Yeah. The big three demographics in our broad area in the mountains are boomers, millennialists, and Gen Z. Not Gen Z. X. I'm trying to make us younger. Mm-hmm. Boomers, millennials, and Gen X in that order. But they're so close. They're like
they might as well be equal.
All statistically, I think I would look at them as equal. Those are the big three. But so our church needs to reflect that. And you were asking me how many millennials in our church, and I'm like, I don't know. We need to find that out. But as a church, we can stay connected if our people reflect the community and they're connected. So you and I wouldn't be on the parent-teacher organization, but the families in our church who have kids can be.
Yes.
And should be, probably are. I can't right now be in Clock or be in the Chamber of Commerce, but people in our church can, and we have people in our church who are in Clock and Chamber of Commerce. So even if we can't individually be connected, I mean, we can still, in our ways, you connect with people in your neighborhood. And so we can still connect with groups of people, but the more our church looks like our community, then the more connected our church is going to be in the community.
And so, and we were talking about this earlier, but eventually, and probably sooner rather than later, we need to start transitioning some of our leadership roles to probably the millennials who are up and coming.
Yeah. And in my mind, initially, I was thinking if, a quarter, because we'll just say a quarter is boomers, a quarter Gen X, a quarter millennials, then that should be the reflection in leadership. But then I started to think, as I dug into that a little bit, well, hang on, the boomers are in their 70s, maybe 80s. I need to look at those ages. So our leadership, they can be in leadership in the church, but the bulk of our servant leadership, I think, probably ought to be the millennials. I think it ought to be millennials and then Gen X and then boomers, as it scales down, which would make sense that we're beginning to hand off the church to the next generation.
So what that means is that our roles would need to change into more of a mentor capacity.
Ooh, yeah. So can you think of a couple of those in the Bible? When I say them, you will right away. But a couple of those mentorship kind of things. I can think of three. You want me to start?
Yeah.
So Moses was the one that God chose to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. Jethro was his father-in-law. Moses was the leader, but Jethro had taken that his father-in-law, taking that role in his life as kind of a mentor, giving wisdom, as you go. Oh yeah. Um, you're a boomer and you're not 70. I didn't say all of them are. We're at the upper edge of Gen X. So in fact, they didn't know what to do with us. For a little while, they tried to coin the term buster for our little group. That's it. Trying to engage with, oh man, you're on it. I just got a book in, one of those Amazon things. They couldn't deliver it on Monday, so it didn't get delivered. They came Monday after we were closed. Instead of being able to deliver on Tuesday, somehow it took 2 more days. So we got it on Wednesday, but it's a book called Sticking Points. I haven't started reading it. It's a business book, but it's talking about how to work with 5 generations. And I thought, well, that seems more applicable to church than business to me, because churches work with more, the 5 generations more than I would think businesses would. Because silent generation, I mean, how many of those are really still in the workplace? So anyhow, that's right. I mean, we have to do that. We have to tap into them. So you had Moses, who was the leader, but then Jethro, who was older, who was still involved in saying, Moses, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to wear yourself out doing this. This will be a better way. And so what Jose is saying, that those generations then, like you said, take on more of a mentor and lend their experience to it. Now, it may not be able to do it the same way that they did it, but the principles don't change. And so they can pass on those principles, and then the leaders at the time can look at that and say, oh, you know what, so here's the principle. I can't do everything myself. So I'm going to have to find a way to divide these up and delegate, is a big word. So Jethro was that for Moses, but then Moses did that for Joshua.
Right.
He began, I believe, to pull Joshua in as Moses, entered his last years, and really kind of handed the baton to Joshua. Now they stayed there until Moses died, and then they went in to the promised land. And then the other one that we see, even though Paul was still doing the work, is Paul, and he had Timothy and Titus and no telling who else. I think Barnabas and Paul were more contemporaries, right? But Paul was the father figure. He even kind of says that to Timothy, to kind of step in. So that, and here's the deal: it's hard to do that. It's hard to give that up. But if we don't do it, if we hang on to it, so I say you and I have another 20 years of servant leadership in us. Man, I don't think so. 77, we've got another.
Well, let's just say we hope so.
Yeah. So if we do, and if we hang on to that for another 20 years, who are we going to hand it off to? Right. I mean, if we don't if we don't start bringing in the generations behind us to leadership, the millennials, the oldest of them, are going to be 63, and they're going to have found something else to do, And if we do that, then that's how we become disconnected from the community, because we have our connections, and that's it. And in 20 years, I can guarantee you, we're going to be on the lower end, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if in 20 years, if our generation will still be 20-some%, and then it'll be the millennials and Gen Z. Gen Z will probably be the highest. They're approaching quickly. Mm-hmm. So I think the best way for our church to stay connected in the community is for our church to reflect the community and who's here. And so that means we're going to have to, and we'll dig into it and find out, kind of what our church is right now, and then really work to reach those, to make sure that
you've done a pretty good job of researching the demographics of the area. Do you know what the demographics of our church is?
Yeah, we'll find out. Yeah, we'll find. I mean, anecdotally, but like I said, I was sitting there trying to think the other day, of where they are. That'll be interesting. Yeah. That's part of what we're going to do this year. We'll start Sunday.
All right.
As we take a look. Just realized we've gone a little bit long because you talk a lot. Golly. Yeah. let me pray for you guys. Thanks for jumping in with us on this Friday. Looks, except for the wind, looks like it's going to be a pretty weekend.
Yeah, sure hope so.
It feels like it's just the beginning of spring. Maybe May will bring some spring.
I sure hope so.
I want some
I am
spring showers.
So looking forward to that.
All right. Let me pray for you guys. Lord, thank you. Thank you that we get to partner with you in the gospel and help us to do that well. God, help us to not get comfortable and complacent, but Lord, to pray that you would challenge us, Lord, to reach out to our community. God, help us as a church, as leaders in the church, to not only lead well, but to raise up other leaders, God, and to do that in a good way, so that we can always stay connected in our community to reach them with the gospel. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, thanks, guys. We will see you. Oh, what will attract those generations going to evolve? That's it. What is their preferred way of communication? Beepers? Yeah. Jose, you're dating yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
So just so you know, the first cell phone I had was so that I didn't have to go find a payphone to return a page from a beeper. That was the company that I worked for. I was a contractor, and I talked the owner into it. This is how much time this will save me, because you're pulling a trailer, you're on a highway, and you got to go find a payphone, and sometimes it's not in a good part of town. Find one that works, and then you call them, and the line's busy, and you got to wait and call back. And so that's how I got my first cell phone, and it was the Motorola Brick, the one that looks like an Army field phone or something,
Wow.
So it's probably not beepers, although never mind. My dad's first beeper was one that you'd leave a message, and he would use the beeper to listen to the message. It didn't last long because those apparently weren't very good.
Yeah, we're definitely dating ourselves.
Yeah, okay. Love you guys. Thanks for joining in with us, and we will see you hopefully Sunday.
Yeah.
But at least again on Monday.